How can you use Dr. Google to build your chiropractic credibility? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants, helping doctors keep their pulse on success. I'm Dr. Michael Perusich, and I'm joined in the studio today with my good friend and co-host, Dr. Troy Fox. Troy, you talk about this all the time. Dr. Google and the things that patients come in talking about that they've read about on the internet.
Oh, yeah. You know what I noticed as we start talking today? Look how big my head is. I am a gigantic individual in comparison to you.
It's
So
that plastic deformation when you
some
don't have
plastic.
hair.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dr. Google, Dr. Google has been a good thing for our patients from a standpoint of them understanding more aspects of chiropractic care. But they also come in with some harebrained ideas, right? They come in with some crazy stuff
Sometimes.
every once in a while, some crazy town. And my famous phrase with patients is always, uh, you know, you should, when you take a look at this, you could call a horse until you find out it's a zebra. And then I talk about, some of the times in school as students where we would look at these crazy, off the hook disease processes that happen to 1/2 of 1% in the population, and it only occurred in Ethiopia to women in their 20s and 30s.
Like
And we're looking at
osteoporosis.
and so we're looking at a 50-year-old male trying to determine that that's what has happened to that person, or they come in saying, "Hey, I looked up Dr. Google, and I think that this is what I have." And so it becomes a real opportunity, and that's what you and I talked about before. I mean, what do you think those opportunities are from a standpoint of us working with patients?
Number one, I think it's great when patients come in and they've done a little bit of research. And, of course, they don't have the
Mm-hmm.
diagnostic skills, but I like to tell them, you know what? Let's put that on the list of things. And as we go through this, we start to narrow down, we'll consider whether or not you have osteoporosis or whatever it might be, whatever they've
Right.
read on the internet. And I think it's just a great way for us to focus on what's their knowledge base coming in the door and
Mm-hmm.
how we can play on that to not make them feel dumb or like they've misresearched, because they haven't. They just don't know how to tie all the dots together. But that when we tie all the dots together and show them how their diagnosis fits together and how that's their condition, then we've built our own credibility by doing that with the patient.
Mm-hmm. And I think as you're looking at this, one thing I think that we have to remember as chiropractors is that you are the subject matter experts in your
Oh,
field.
good. Yeah, I like that.
It was interesting. This morning I was talking to an ER doc, and we were talking about his low back and his frequency of care. And we kind of talked a little bit about what happens in a hypoxic situation with say an L5S1 disc space. And he was like, "Wow, you really know your stuff." He goes, "You know it better than I do. I kind of really didn't realize it went through all that." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, that's the process it goes through. That's why we always have concern for our patients about getting care. And so I think sometimes even when you're speaking to another medical professional, you have to realize when it comes to spinal problems, you're kind of the hot thing on the block.
Yeah, we're the bomb. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had that same experience before. I can remember one time a general surgeon who practiced just right down the street from me, his wife was having some back pain. He brought her in. He wanted to see everything that I did and the process that we went through, not because he was questioning anything. He was just curious. And so as I was going through the x-rays with him, same thing, same experience. Wow, you guys know so much about the spine. It's unreal. And I said, and you know so much about how to remove somebody's gallbladder. That's unreal to me. It's the same thing. We got to understand we own the lane when it comes to the spine. Here's a quick message from our sponsor, CATS Chiropractic Business Advisors. We'll be right back.
Is your team dropping the ball?
Do you have your go-to person who always has the ball?
Is your team trained and ready for what daily practice throws at them?
Can you depend on your team to catch the training on their own?
Let us help you hit it out of the park. We want to be your coach.
Yeah, and so that gives you an opportunity when your patients come in, and this was really the kind of the impetus for us doing this is you gain credibility just like you do. I can gain credibility with a medical
Mhm.
professional when they go, whoa, I didn't realize you knew that much about the spine and the disc space and
Right.
or about those x-rays or whatever. You gain the same credibility with your patients when you start dialoguing with patients that have done a little Dr. Google action. All of a sudden they realize that you know the subject inside and out. Use that opportunity, don't shrug it, but make sure that you're working on the patient while you're doing that. In other words, you don't have to spend 30 minutes with the patient. Adjust them while you're talking about this stuff.
Sure.
It's a really great intro to maybe why they need a little bit more care, or why is that right fifth lumbar and SI joint bothering me at the same time? Well, remember when we look back at your x-rays, blah blah blah. So gives you a great opportunity to become the credibility and the subject matter expert.
Yeah, I love that terminology, the subject matter expert, because that's really what we are. And, you don't want to shove your knowledge down the patient's throat. So it's always good to find out, what do they know coming in? What have they already researched? What have they already looked at online? And how does that play into what their thought process is about showing up in your practice? And you parlay off of that to not only understand where they're coming from when they walk in, but using it not to belittle them, but using it to turn it around and build your own credibility. Okay, so you came in, you thought it was sciatica. Actually, here's what's going on. You have what I call a sister diagnosis to that. You have piriformis syndrome. And here's the good news, it's much easier to treat, blah, 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 blah. And the patient then immediately knows they're in the right place, and you just have instant credibility.
Right.
And so you're building that strong patient relationship right off the bat.
And that's right where you need to be. So, and sometimes it happens early on with a new patient, or it might be a react, or it may be in the case of where I was at, I bought someone else's practice and I had to
Right.
gain credibility with the patients that I'm working with. They trusted the other doctor that they were working with. They were happy with the other doctor they were working with. All of a sudden they come in and see me. Does this guy know what he's doing? Does he know how to adjust me?
Right.
So all of a sudden we start talking about things that are important to them, and they realize that I do have, that subject matter expertise. It creates credibility for me, and now we're off to the races. Now I am a trusted chiropractor for them as well. So I think it's really easy to do. I've been doing it all day, every day for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it gets the patients really talking too, when you're, especially in those initial stages of care, when you're doing the exam and you're trying to do the report of findings, when they've done that research and they've been on Google and they all do it, we know it.
Yep.
Look at it as a bonus when they come in and say, hey, doc, I was on the internet. Here's what I found. I think it's one of these things. Great. Let's throw those cards out on the table and let's see how this all plays together. And when you pull the patient into the thought process of how you made the diagnosis and so forth, not only do you create credibility, but they now have a deeper understanding of what's going on with them and what your treatment recommendations are and how it all plays together. Now they're engaged in care, and that helps them stay in care until they see the results that they need. So the whole Dr. Google thing, big bonus in my opinion.
Yep.
Awesome.
I think so as well. It really beats that patient that walks in that goes, I don't know what I got going on, don't care, I have a high pain tolerance, pop my back and I'm out of here. Instead, these people actually read and they're like, okay, whoa. And it gives you an opportunity to interject as well. Here's what we've seen on a national level. So far as the condition that we're looking at, typically it's going to take, X number of visits to treat this. We're going to see you for 6 visits, and then we're going to take a look at you, and we'll reevaluate where you're at that point and move forward from there. So it gives you a lot of opportunity at that point to also talk about how we're going to monitor your condition. So we now have an idea of what's going on based off your Dr. Google review and my exam. We put those two things together. Now we're going to, and so they're engaged in the process.
Absolutely.
At that point, because they realize that it's more than just a one-off little tiny thing. This is actually something that might take a little work and effort for me to get past. And then when they get that aha moment, it makes it much easier for you to make a proper recommendation for the patient
Yep.
Because they now know that they need to get care. So it's
Yeah.
a phenomenal thing across the board. It just is good that patients have more information. Love it.
Is. So use it to your benefit. Use Dr. Google to help build your credibility and get your patients engaged in the care process. All right, everybody. I think that's it for us today here at KC CHIROpulse podcast, brought to you by CATS Consultants. Hey, do yourself a favor. Jump onto our website, catsconsultants.com. Download our latest white paper, our annual mid-year review that we do every year. You don't want to practice the rest of the year without it. And check out all the great things that we're doing to help doctors find the path to success and to burn our noses on the weekend. Anyway, all right. From all of us here at CATS Consultants, we will see you all next time.
See ya.